Welcome aboard. Stay tuned and subscribe to Han Li's Wuxia Adventures for more thrilling content. Chapter 1798. To Jiu Han, this wasn't just a provocation, it was also an insult to her dignity. Thinking of this, Jiu Han screamed, "Little bastard, I'll kill you." With a bang, the emptiness palm struck again. This time, Jiu Han was prepared, and water ripples appeared where the emptiness palm struck. The emptiness palm struck the water ripples, leaving behind 5 palm imprints. However, it was unable to break through the water ripples and attack Jiu Han's body. Lu Yin's pupils shrank. It was ineffective? Lu Yin's hollow palm was rarely ineffective against a powerhouse with a power level of 600,000. He looked at Jiu Han solemnly. This woman was definitely one of the best of her generation, and she had even been a realmling when she was younger. After all, she was a descendant of a martial ancestor. Jiu Han stared at Lu Yin coldly. In this astral source universe, the martial ancestor raised his right palm in a familiar posture. Lu Yin suddenly recalled Wu Taibai's attack during the Sovereign Tournament. It was the seal of mountains and rivers, a secret technique created by the martial ancestor that ignored spatial distance. Bang! Lu Yin was also struck and sent flying out of the astral source universe. Jiu Han had thought that the seal of mountains and rivers would be enough to heavily injure Lu Yin, but she had not expected him to only be sent flying out of the astral source universe without being injured at all. Her gaze was fierce as she stepped out of the astral source universe and appeared in front of Lu Yin. "Bastard, let's see how many times you can block my attacks." She then raised her hand again and used the seal of mountains and rivers. Lu Yin sneered. This woman's attack was ineffective against his miniature armor. He allowed the seal of mountains and rivers to strike him again as he raised his hand and unleashed an empty palm. Seal of mountains and rivers. Empty palm. Seal of mountains and rivers. Empty palm. The two continued to fight, but the seal of mountains and rivers could not break through Lu Yin's miniature armor and the empty palm could not break through Jiu Han's ripples. The two continued to exchange blows. Zhu San and the rest were stunned as they watched the space shatter and the shockwaves spread out. They exchanged glances and hurriedly left. Jiu Han grew more and more sullen as the battle went on. Using the secret technique too frequently was a burden to her, but the empty palm was a regular attack against Lu Yin. She could not understand how he could have such terrifying attack power. His star energy had been suppressed, but he could still use it. His pure physical strength could not only enter the astral source universe, but it was also unaffected by her suppression. Not even the martial ancestor. No wonder he was called the supreme of the younger generation. Even if the Tao Source 3 heavens joined forces, they would still be no match for him. This person must die. Jiu Han's gaze turned cold and he suddenly waved his hand. The void trembled and the water in the surrounding space suddenly condensed into balls of water. A chessboard appeared beneath Lu Yin's feet and he began to move. On the spot where he stood, the void suddenly shrank and a water ball also formed. Lu Yin appeared in the distance and watched with apprehension. This woman's ripples were not a power vessel, but rather an innate gift. She had relied on her own strength to block the hollow palm, and as an imprint ancestor, she had the ability to fight against someone with a power level of 700,000. Coupled with her secret techniques and unpredictable power vessels, even Lu Yin found it difficult to deal with her. "I've already said that Xia Yi stole the jade. If you have the ability, then go find him," Lu Yin shouted. Jiu Han no longer cared about the jade. She was completely focused on getting rid of Lu Yin. Everyone had said that Yi Xingqian had founded the Unyielding Legion. My father founded the Unyielding Battle Group and befriended the Fishmen, leaving behind a team for me. In order to live up to my father's efforts, I took over the Unyielding Battle Group after my father passed away. The reason I was able to roam the world is all thanks to the Fishmen, Yi Xingqian said. The cosmic sea surface is filled with many great battles, but the ones who truly control the cosmic sea are the merfolk. They're good at observing the weather, finding routes, and avoiding risks. It's a pity that they don't have any top-notch experts, or else the cosmic sea wouldn't be ruled by humans. Lu Yin said, "I remember that Leon's armada has a merfolk legion." Yi Xingqian nodded. The merfolk legion's commander, Brother Hao, is considered the #1 merfolk expert in the cosmic sea. It was through him that I met Heizij Leon. He then looked at Lu Yin as everyone knew about Lu Yin's relationship with Leon's armada. "Brother Yi, feel free to speak your mind," Lu Yin said. Yi Xingqian replied, "Heizij Leon has always wanted to incorporate my Unyielding Legion, but I never thought of joining. This is my father's blood, sweat, and tears. My father was proud and never bowed to anyone. He would rather die than join the Immortal Legion. That's why they wanted to kill him. Your father died at the hands of the Immortal Legion? Lu Yin was astonished. Yi Xingqian nodded, stood up and solemnly said, the Immortal Legion was destroyed thanks to Alliance leader Lu. Yi Xingqian, thank you. He then bowed deeply. Lu Yin supported him. The Immortal Legion wasn't destroyed to avenge your father. There's no need to thank me. Yi Xingqian bitterly replied, if not for Alliance leader Lu, I wouldn't have been able to take revenge in this lifetime. Regardless of whether or not Alliance leader Lu acknowledges me, I, Yi Xingqian, owe you a favor. After chatting with Yi Xingqian for a while, Lu Yin learned that several burial gates had appeared in the cosmic sea. However, the burial gate that the Unyielding Legion was currently guarding had not been leaked, as it was a burial gate that could be exited. Actually, guarding a burial gate is very dangerous. If the one who exits isn't you, Alliance leader Lu, but one of our enemies, then we'll be in trouble. Yi Xingqian sighed. He had great ambitions. Part of the reason why the Unyielding Legion had not joined Leon's armada was because of his father, but part of the reason was also because of his own pride. However, many years had passed since then, and he had watched Lu Yin grow from a group of 4 unparalleled meters to his current height. Yi Xingqian had no choice but to admit that he could not take revenge on his own. This was something that he would never have said 10 years ago. Lu Yin was not in a hurry to leave the Unyielding Legion. Instead, he contacted Wang Wen. Before entering the burial gates, Lu Yin had asked Wang Wen to calculate the number of burial gates within the Great Eastern Alliance's territory. It faced the man, and under the man's confused gaze, the mummy waved its hand and the man's body flew towards the old mummy. The old mummy caught the man and plunged him into the ground. Then an earth-shattering scream rang out in all directions. Lu Yin's jaw dropped as he stared at the scene in shock. The man's limbs gradually withered and then turned into tea leaves. His tendons, bones and blood all became nutrients for the tea leaves. Only his face was left looking up at the sky. His gaze was still blank, but there was an additional trace of extreme pain and despair. Within the forest, Lu Yin left without looking back. The star-scattered chessboard appeared beneath his feet and he kept moving and moving. He kept rushing into the distance, not daring to stay for long. The man had been turned into a tea tree in an instant, and this scene left a deep psychological shadow in Lu Yin's heart. What was up with that old corpse? It was too cruel and too strange. Lu Yin didn't even have the slightest intention of investigating the situation. It was impossible for him to do so. All he wanted was to get as far away from that tea hill as possible. He didn't want to see such a strange and terrifying scene ever again in his life. Along the way, it had dropped many natural treasures that could be used to avoid danger, as well as weapons that could be used by enlighters. There were even inherited techniques that had been dropped. The source of this news was very difficult to find, as it seemed to have spread like wildfire on the network overnight. The news only remained on the network for 2 hours before it completely disappeared. Someone important had interfered, and to be able to block this news from the entire network meant that the person who had interfered was definitely someone from the Neoverse, and there was a 90% chance that they were from the Hall of Honor. This made people believe in the accuracy of the news even more. The various great powers continuously sent people into the burial garden to search for this primordial giant. A few days later, Lu Yin stood atop a mountain range and stared into the distance with a dumbfounded expression. He saw an incomparably large figure staggering along with a hunched back. Every step it took left a footprint that was as large as a city, and every step caused the mountains and rivers to tremble. The clouds were only around the figure's waist, and through the clouds, Lu Yin could see that the giant was carrying an even larger palace on its back. After experiencing the strange and terrifying scene at Tea Mountain, Lu Yin's impression of the burial garden had completely changed. What he saw now left him in disbelief. Was this a giant carrying a palace on its back? Lu Yin's eyes flickered as he stared at the giant. Although the giant seemed to be fatigued with every step was very long and it quickly disappeared. Lu Yin hurriedly chased after it. No matter what, the palace on the giant's back was still very attractive. Furthermore, if he was not mistaken, that giant was also a corpse that walked around the burial garden. This type of corpse had a professional name, a wandering corpse. Welcome aboard. Stay tuned and subscribe to Han Li's Wuxia Adventures for more thrilling content. Chapter 1810. Since the Neo-Human Alliance was searching for and destroying the burial gate, the chances of the Greyweed continent discovering it were very low. But no matter how low, he still had to search. He had no other way to leave, and the entrance to the fifth mainland from the Starfall Sea was guarded by the sixth mainland's three ancestors. Even if the Eternals did not stop him, he would not be able to enter the fifth mainland under their watch. The martial ancestor was eager to kill him. Luin did not trust the three ancestors either. "Senior, what do you plan to do next?" Sea Shower asked. Luin answered, "Find the burial gate and head to the Innerverse. I'm not willing to be ruled by a corpse king." "But the burial gate should have been destroyed, right?" Sea Shower was uncertain. Luin was resolute. "Even if there's only a sliver of hope, we still have to try." Sea Shower pursed her lips. "I'm willing to take you to search the Greyweed continent. Otherwise, if you meet a corpse king alone, your identity will be easily discovered. After all, your strength is extraordinary, and even my master might not be your match." Luin smiled. "He's definitely not my match." Sea Shower was stunned. Why was he so confident? "What do you say if you meet a corpse king?" Luin asked. Sea Shower thought about it and her eyes lit up. "Senior, do you have a way to drain some of the water from your body? Our Water God Training Hall has a battle technique that can directly drain the water from an enemy's body, but it requires a long time to practice. If you meet a corpse king, just say that you're my junior brother who's been practicing this technique." Luin was puzzled. "Drain water? Who taught you that?" He had met Johann a while ago, and she had also drained him dry. That feeling had been very uncomfortable. Sea Shower replied, "It's a battle technique passed down by my ancestors that involves water. Most of them have similar battle techniques." Luin nodded. "I'll send you up. Wait for me." He then grabbed Sea Shower and tossed her up. The heavenly flames above Sea Shower's head were torn apart by Lu Yin's strength, and she fell outside the core of the heavenly flames without even feeling a trace of warmth. The Water God Training Hall's disciples had long since left, and she had stayed underground for quite some time. Lu Yin used Ancestor Ku's inheritance. Things move in the opposite direction. If he wanted to deceive an envoy-level corpse king, then he would need to have his body completely drained of water. Sea Shower's strength was not enough to do that. The only way to pass off the fake as the real corpse king was to do so in the opposite direction, and Luin was also interested in this battle technique. As long as he was attacked, he would be able to replenish himself. The stronger the attack, the faster he would recover, and the more power he would be able to accumulate. Since Luin did not know when he would be able to return to the Innerverse, this battle technique was most suitable for survival in the Starfall Sea. Furthermore, no one would be able to recognize him even if he transformed into a mummy. This was not a disguise but a real mummy. Not even a half-martial ancestor would be able to recognize him. Sea Shower stayed outside the heavenly flame Earth's core for more than 3 days. She didn't get impatient and continued to cultivate. The opposite of water was fire. In her opinion, using fire to roast water might be able to stimulate the cultivation of water. Behind her, the void distorted and Luin walked out. Sea Shower turned around and her expression changed drastically. She was scared silly. You? It's me." Sea Shower stared at Luin in shock. "Senior?" Lu Yin's current appearance was truly frightening. "Are you talking to me?" "Well." Yang Kong's tone was as arrogant as ever. "This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page." Luin felt like he was asking for a beating. "I'm not going," he refused. Yang Kong sneered. "You don't have the right to refuse. This quest comes from the Eternals. If you go, you'll return with unimaginable resources. If you don't go, I'll have to use some methods to ask Tao Master C." She didn't want to go either, but she agreed in the end. Luin looked at Tao Master C. Tao Master C was helpless. "I lost. I admit defeat." "So you don't have to go as long as you win?" Luin asked. Yang Kong looked up. "You can't beat me. Why should I?" Luin was annoyed. "Based on that test, I can say with certainty that you can't beat me," Yang Kong said proudly. Luin raised a hand and flames ignited on his palm, transforming it into a sword. "Try it." Yang Kong shook his head. "I'm only letting you accompany me on this quest because I think highly of you. What's the point of being stubborn? Isn't the point of cultivation to become stronger and live longer? As long as you succeed, you'll receive resources from the Eternals that will allow you to cultivate to a power level of 1,000,000. Luin was stunned. A power level of 1,000,000? Resources? Yang Kong clasped his hands behind his back. It's not just you, Tao Master C. Those who accompany me on this quest will also receive the same treatment. If they succeed and return alive, they'll receive endless resources from the Eternals in the future. As long as you have enough talent, you can even become a half-ancestor, let alone a power level of 1,000,000. Lu Yin lowered his hand and the flames dissipated. Tao Master C glanced at Yang Kong. She had also received this promise, but she had not been tempted by it. So what if she had endless resources? As long as she carried out this quest, she would definitely be standing against the humans, and she would only be able to work with those corpse kings in the future. So what if she could cultivate to a power level of 1,000,000? She had no choice but to go. Now it seemed that this Lai Yanzi had been tempted. She looked at Lu Yin with a cold and disdainful gaze. She had specifically investigated this Lai Yanzi. This person had once been quite talented and had even fought for the position of Tao Master, but he had still been defeated in the end. He had even used despicable methods during the competition and had almost been expelled from the Skyfire Dojo. This person had been blinded by greed and was truly a despicable person. Seeing that this person had been tempted by Yang Kong, it did seem to match the historical Lai Yanzi. Perhaps this person really was Lai Yanzi. My cultivation has reached a bottleneck and I lack resources. The Skyfire Dojo has been destroyed and I don't know where I can get more resources. Can you give them to me? Lu Yin asked as he looked expectantly at Yang Kong. Yang Kong's lips curled up. Of course. I'm talking about right now. I'll agree to accompany you on this quest, but you have to give me resources. There was no suspense at all. Yi King retracted his gaze and left. On Realm Mountain, Elder Chan quietly watched as Lu Yin entered the Board of Control. Someone walked over from behind him. Reporting to Elder Chan, Mr. Wright of the Board of Control, Lu Ran has been dismissed. The new director will be the Alliance Master of the Great Eastern Alliance, Lu Yin. What do you think of Lu Yin? Elder Chan asked. The person who had reported to Elder Chan was none other than De Chio from the Interstellar Arbitration Office. The youngest generation of the Hall of Honor was naturally led by the Shanqing Elders, and before that, De Chio had also had a method. The Hall of Honor had never lacked methods in its history, but there were very few who had been able to become an emissary. Once one became an emissary, their status would be completely different, and De Chio was one such example. De Chio had already been recognized as the fourth presiding judge, and Elder Chan valued him greatly. Aside from the Shanqing Elders, De Chio was the expert that Elder Chan valued the most among the younger generation. Lu Yin? De Chio was astonished. Elder Chan asked. You once traveled with Lu Yin. What do you think of him? De Chio did not even think about it before answering seriously. Lu Yin is my friend and he was the one who helped me break through to become an emissary. Without him I would not be where I am today. He is my benefactor. Elder Chan was speechless as he realized that he had asked for nothing. Both the Shanqing Elders and De Chio viewed Lu Yin as their benefactor, so how was he supposed to ask? The Shanqing Elders and De Chio represented the future of the Hall of Honor, and both of them were close to Lu Yin. How was he supposed to treat Lu Yin? Furthermore, the head judge, Qing Ping, was Lu Yin's senior. At this moment, Elder Chan was somewhat exhausted. He had never thought that there would come a day when he would lose control of the Hall of Honor, but that day had still come. Even if he suppressed Lu Yin now, it would be useless. In the future, this person would still be able to reach the peak. He had that kind of charisma and ability, and Lu Yin was also a treasure of the Lockbreaker Society. That old fellow Xiaoming also praised him greatly. You may leave, Elder Chan said tiredly. De Chio did not understand and he slowly retreated. Some people had to be stopped early or else it would be too late. Lu Yin was a classic example. No one knew that even Elder Chan could not stop Lu Yin now, as his influence was too great. Lu Yin sat down in the board of directors, feeling rather curious. I thought that you guys would hold your board of directors in some special place. This place seems rather ordinary. San Liang smiled. When the Hall of Honor was first established, the board of directors held its first meeting here. This place has a special meaning to the Hall of Honor. Alliance Leader Lu, I might have to call you Director Lu from now on, haha. Yang Ji laughed. Lu Yin smiled. Director Lu doesn't sound nice. Just call me Brother Lu. It sounds more intimate. Alright, Brother Lu is still the same. Yang Ji smiled cheerfully, but only he knew what he was thinking. Lu Yin had contacted them on his way to the World Mountain. He had threatened Yang Ji with the gifts he had given him in the past, which had left Yang Ji helpless. If this matter were to spread, it would be a huge blow to Yang Ji, which was why Yang Ji had been willing to support Lu Yin. However, this would only happen once. Lu Yin did not care. Regardless of whether or not Yang Ji supported him in the future, he still had people who supported him in the board of directors. I haven't seen you in a while. Brother Lu looks even more spirited. Zijing smiled. Lu Yin smiled. Of course. You're also becoming more and more beautiful. Zijing laughed. Brother Lu is still so humorous. You want something of equivalent value from this society? Lu Yin was a little embarrassed, but he still asked, Can I? Xiaoming laughed and shook his head. Everyone says that you're greedy for money, and that's true. You should be happy that I'm giving you some star essence. Lu Yin's expression changed. I'm not a greedy person. I don't want the star essence. Xiaoming was astonished. You don't want the star essence? He thought that he had misheard. Who in the universe didn't know that Lu Yin was greedy? How had he changed? Lu Yin answered seriously, I'm focused on cultivation, so how could I be greedy? These are just rumors spread by those who are hostile to me. President, please don't believe them. If that's the case, then I'll give you a source box of equivalent value? Xiaoming was uncertain. Lu Yin was a little embarrassed. Is there anything else? Like true insight or something? Xiaoming was speechless. You want to exchange a string of useless humanoid source boxes for true insight? You're thinking too much. Lu Yin felt awkward. You handed over a page of true insight before, and that was quite thoughtful of you. It's a pity that you're still missing a few pages out of the 36. Otherwise, I could have lent you a page to study, Xiaoming said. Lu Yin rubbed his cosmic ring. He had 5 pages of true insight, but they were too difficult to comprehend. In the end, Lu Yin used the string of humanoid source boxes to obtain some rare materials from Xiaoming. He couldn't understand the uses of these materials, and from Xiaoming's expression, it seemed like he couldn't recognize them either. Lu Yin suddenly felt like he had suffered a loss. But it didn't matter. The humanoid source boxes were useless to him anyway, so he might as well give them to Xiaoming. When it came to lock-breaking, Lu Yin was far from being as professional as Xiaoming. Lu Yin didn't run into the Qishir duo, but he did run into Director Ji outside the lockbreaker world. It seemed that Director Ji was waiting for him. Alliance Master Lu, we agreed to work together last time, but we haven't done so yet. Director Ji spoke politely as he wanted to obtain some rare materials through Lu Yin. Lu Yin had always been paying attention to the Aurora Corporation, and he was waiting for the microarray technology to be developed. There's plenty of time. Director Ji needs rare materials and I have plenty here. Director Ji's eyes lit up. That's great. Do you have time? How about coming to my Aurora fort for a visit? The microarray technology had yet to be developed, and Lu Yin wasn't confident that he could hide from Wan Gong at Aurora fort. I'm not going now. I'm going back to the Innerverse. The burial garden has opened and any door is dangerous. Director Ji should know that. Director Ji felt that it was a pity. That's a pity? When will you be returning to the Innerverse? I'm leaving now. Then let's go together. It's on the way anyway. That's great. I can ask Director Ji about the Neoverse as well. As a director of the Hall of Honor, he normally wouldn't leave the Realm Mountain,